Hello and welcome to Health and Life with me, Coach Natalie, where I'm spreading love, light, knowledge to you about health and life. But today we're going to talk specifically about digging into your generational traumas, right? And when I say digging into your generational traumas, we are privy to those generational traumas because they're things that are perpetuated over and over again over the generations. So it could be alcoholism, it could be sexual abuse, it could be an reared way of thinking, it could be codependency, it could be, it could be many things, things like that perpetuate themselves throughout the generations, and we don't always understand why. I'm going to talk about myself because I can't talk for anyone else, but I can say, like, when you start, here in the United States, my family's from the Caribbean, so here in the U.S., it is something that is romanticized to go and see what your ancestry is, right? Like to, Ancestry.com, I'm not affiliated with them, but they have many commercials that tell you that you should, check out, see where your lineage is, see, are you part African? Are you part European? What part of Europe? Are you part Spanish? Are you part Caribbean? Where your ancestors come from. And this can be a good thing, right? Because if you know where your ancestors come from, you can find out a lot of things about yourself. So you can see what type of foods might be the healthiest for you. You can find out what kind of diseases they were privy to, right? Because even disease processes can be generational. So, but you also find out about a lot of other things. Like you can find out who was married, who was not, who had kids out of wedlock. Different things that come up when you're looking through your family line that also lead to generational curses. And how do you say, does this lead to generational curses? White European, you will have to dig probably a lot deeper to find your roots, like centuries ago, where maybe some of your people were enslaved. But for most of us here in the US that are doing this, it's not that long ago. And most of us in the Caribbean, it's not that long ago. It's maybe it's a couple centuries ago. So, we have to remember that just because someone got up and said, like, yeah, we're free, or we're no longer, this is no longer acceptable, that the mindset around slavery does not go away in just that minute, in just that second. It takes up centuries and centuries. It will take centuries and centuries to get away from that, and hopefully not go back to it, not go back to that kind of mindset. So now, what do I mean by trauma? So we may or may not know, because this is not general education in the school system, that when you're enslaved, depending on the color of your skin, you may have been in different places and you were treated differently. And this behavior was seen amongst your own people. So let's say, like, you're all black, right? You have a family and you have different groups. Like, somebody's really light, somebody looks white, somebody looks really dark. The lighter you were, the better jobs you had. And it wasn't a job, like, because you're enslaved. So the better position you had in that hierarchy of slavery. So you were in the house, like you maybe had quarters somewhere that was closer to the house. Whereas if you were doing yard work, and farming, you were outside and you weren't allowed near the house. You were considered good enough to serve the guests of those who had you enslaved. So imagine this though. Imagine this amongst your own people, and not the enslaver, but the enslaved, that you're seeing this. There's this disparity in how people are treated. And this is fostered into you. And this goes on for generations. And it's no longer, right? Slavery ends. And then it's no longer just the white people that are doing it, but it's the black people that are doing it to each other. Like based on their color. They treat because this is what you've been taught that you do. And so when you look at maybe somebody that's lighter, but they may be offered a better job than somebody else. And I'm not saying this is everywhere, but I'm just saying that the mindset is something that's there, and it's something that takes understanding and digging deep into, because you have to look at yourself, right? Like, because no matter where you are, look, it's not just the person that's lighter that's looking down on the other person. The person that's darker is looking down on the person that's lighter because they're saying, oh, that person thinks they're better. So this breeds a sort of discontent and feud and competition amongst your own race, so that you can't even get along. Like, now it's not just the white people that are getting along with you, but then you can't get along. And this is quite a generational curse, and it's not by any fault per se of our own. It's because of colonialism, this is what was instilled. And this is what we believe. And you know what? And sometimes, depending on where you fall in this spectrum, what you hear from your families and your ancestors may be quite different. And then so that leaves that disparity where there shouldn't be. There really should not be. It should, yes, some people are more educated than others. But there's always there's the ability to get educated, right? And that doesn't make someone less of a human being than you are. It doesn't make it might make them less qualified for certain jobs, but that's based on their qualification and not based on the color of their skin. So this, for me, like this skin tone discussion, right? As a person who's fairer and of lighter skin, is something that I suffered my whole life. It is because coming from, like, I don't live in a bubble, right? Like, I don't live in a bubble with my family. So I have to go out into the world and communicate. And as my parents immigrated to the United States, right? Like, and I got to see, within a free country, how this manifested. And even as a kid, I couldn't understand, why are we different? Why is there such a difference made? And it's not until you go dig into your ancestry and your history and maybe the ancestry of others around you that you can understand why this manifests in such a way. And another thing I want to say is that if you grow up in the Caribbean, depending on where you grow up, if you did not grow up here in the US, it's very likely that you had, depending on where. My family's from Haiti, and people in Haiti they have maids, they have gardeners, they have butlers, and people that help them around their homes, right? But when I went to visit, it's still the same. Normally it's the darker skinned, the darker skinned blacks that are doing it. And then there's also this disparity in the way that they're treated. And it's unfortunate to say. In my country, the country where my parents come from, it does happen in that way. And there is a looking down on those that have, by others, of those that have less than. Now, in my family, is that the case? I can't say because I grew up here, and they moved here to the US, and so I've only been privy to my experience here in the US. But like going back to visit, you can see how people are treated, and it's not quite it's quite a difference. And it's quite a difference anyway. So how does this why am I talking so much about this? Is that when you start digging into your ancestry, that you come across things like you might have colonels from the French army, right? Like, I mean, I'm from the Caribbean, so here it might be from in the US it might be from the Spanish army that mated with the women of the country. So you have these Spanish colonels, these French colonels that are part of your lineage. Now, think about this. And we don't know. I don't know because I wasn't there, and it's not something we like to think about, right? Because we pride ourselves in our ancestry, and we should. Like, I can say I'm part French, I'm part African, I'm part Caribbean, I'm part, whatever it is. I'm part Spanish. Whatever it is that comes up in my when I do my ancestry DNA, whatever comes up, I'm proud, because that's who makes me who I am, and knowing those things helps me to figure out some other things about myself. Not that I don't know who I am without that. Like, I do know who I am, but like I said, it can help you figure things medically about yourself. It can help you figure things physically about things that happen in your lineage that maybe you want to take on, and maybe you want to change. And for me, it's like that, knowing that there's French colonels that are like in my lineage brings a thought, right? That, well, like we're these, obviously I'm not white, so there's, intermingling with the people of the country that led to my being born at some point, right? Was this through rape or through force or because, we know that there was forcible sex happening back then, because, or it was like, what were you gonna do? Like, you live in the house, and so if that's part of your duty, that's what you do. You do the do. So, yeah. And so and the thing is not to perpetuate that behavior moving forward, right? When you think about it, to me, that's an important part of doing the ancestry research, because we don't want to keep perpetuating what has happened in the past, and we don't want to keep reliving it. We don't want to I don't want to keep reliving it, and I don't want to pass that on to my kids, some of those things, as a way of being. No, you need to be respectful towards women. You need to be, women deserve 100% respect. And if they say no, the answer is no matter what. And they need to understand that just because of their lineage, or because like your mom comes from a certain place, doesn't make you better than anyone else, and doesn't make you. And it's really quite ironic, because I see people who pride themselves on, they just like, like, we are, they are the elite of the elite because they were born of the French colonels, or the Spanish colonels, or whatever. And I mean, and it's a beautiful thing, but elite of the elite that they were at the time, they did some really bad things that resulted in in this beautiful thing of me being here today, right? Like I guess I would have to say, if that had not happened, I would not be here. So I'm really, I'm grateful for the trauma for that reason, but I'm not willing to keep perpetuating the trauma and not just perpetuating it, but romanticizing the trauma as if, like, and making it into something that it wasn't. Like, as proud as I am to be who I am, and I stand firm in that, no matter what it is. I mean, but if I'm going to acknowledge and stand proud in who I am, I also need to acknowledge what the things that maybe I'm not so proud of, so that I can make those changes moving for future generations, so that we don't keep perpetuating the same trauma to future generations. Anyway, I hope this makes sense to you. This is just me coming out, speaking my mind. It's my thoughts. You can agree, you don't have to agree. And I know, many people have different opinions about this, but, as a Haitian woman who is born here, and I say a Haitian woman who's born here in the United States because, when I was born, just real quick, when I was born, the law here said that if you were born in the United States, you were American, no matter whether your parents were American or not. And when I was born here, my parents were not American yet. They were residents, but they weren't American. So my mom and dad were not American. They were Haitian. So because I was born here, I was gifted the right to be an American. But today, as it stands, with the way they're changing the law, it would be very different. If I was born to Haitian parents here in the United States, I would still be of Haitian nationality based on the laws that they're making. So let's not get it twisted. Just think about that. Somebody changing a law can change your destiny, can change your perspective, and that has nothing to do with you being better than anybody else. It's a law that they pass, and now your whole destiny and the whole way your life goes changes because of that. So be mindful of that when you are looking at others, and be mindful of and be proud of your heritage, but also be mindful of the things that occurred in your lineage that you may not want to repeat. Anyhow, well, thank you for joining me today. That's all I have. I am sending you love, light, knowledge. Until next time.